In 1987, Joel Schumacher's The Lost Boys was released and has been a cult phenomenon ever since. It tells the story of single mother Lucy Emerson and her two teenage sons Michael and Sam moving to the seaside town of Santa Carla, the murder capital of the world, full of seaside carnivals, hobos, partygoers, comic book enthusiasts, and bikie gangs. Where eldest son Michael meets a beautiful woman called Star, where he is then caught in the middle of a mysterious punk rocker motorcycle gang led by David, played with sinister coolness and edge by Kieffer Sutherland.
You're eating maggots, how do they taste?
But this gang of teenage misfits aren't what they seem, as they are indeed vampires, and when Michael gets infected and starts to become a vampire himself, his younger brother Sam joins forces with the Frog Brothers, who claim to be comic book enthusiasts and vampire hunters, as they try to take down the town's evil bloodsuckers once and for all. In this episode, we are going to be sinking our teeth into 10 things that you didn't know about The Lost Boys, the teenage vampire movie that came out when teenage vampire movies were cool. Indeed, never before has a vampire movie had such big 1980s hair. No, seriously, check out the movie. Nearly all the characters have big, giant, puffy 1980s hairdos. I would not fit in that movie's universe. So with that, let's check it out.
The last fire will rise behind those eyes. Cry, little sister. Come to your brother.
You're creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire.
Number 10. Kieffer Sutherland was won over by INXS. As mentioned, Kieffer Sutherland played vampire leader David, the main villain of the movie, and as mentioned, not only is he cool and slick, almost like a punk 1980s version of James Dean with a touch of goth, but he could also be utterly frightening and menacing. And when you watch him in the movie, you know that this is an evil creature of the night you don't want to mess with. Well, it seems hard to imagine anyone else but Sutherland in the role, but originally he was hesitant to play the part when it was offered to him. But he was won over when he found out that the movie would feature a song sung by INXS and Jimmy Barnes. The song in question was Good Times, and both INXS and Jimmy Barnes were Australian rock stars. And because Sutherland had recently been in Australia, he was a fan of both acts and thus agreed to star in the movie. Incidentally, Joel Schumacher directed the INXS music video for Devil Inside. INXS and Jimmy Barnes. Yep, Joel Schumacher sure does love Australian rock music. Number 9. The Lost Boys started the two Coreys trend. The Lost Boys starred Corey Haim as younger brother of the main protagonist Sam Emerson, and Corey Feldman who played teenage vampire hunter Edgar Frog. The movie put the two young actors in big demand in the teenage scene, and thus the term The Two Coreys was invented, in which the two young actors would go on to star in other films together, including License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream, Blown Away, Last Resort, Dream a Little Dream 2, and Busted, along with the short-lived reality TV show which left a huge impact, The Two Coreys, where sadly we learn that the success of the Coreys came at a sad price, in which both actors had endured Hollywood mistreatment and abuse. A shocking reality of which even to this day, Corey Feldman is vowing to expose. Number 8. The Lost Boys got its name from Peter Pan. Ever notice in the movie The Lost Boys, the actual term The Lost Boys never gets used? Nope, not once does someone say the title Lost Boys. Well, the title comes from the story Peter Pan. Yep, the tribe of young boys who are kinda like Peter Pan's right-hand men, where Peter Pan acts as their captain. In the story of Peter Pan, they were once normal boys from Earth, whom at one stage fell out of their prams when they were infants and swept away to Neverland, where they will never grow up and live as immortal young boys. I think it's meant to represent the desire of young children to live wildly with no parental supervision, where they can live forever as kids getting into all kinds of adventures. Well, the movie The Lost Boys got its name from the Lost Boys in Peter Pan, surely because the vampires in the movie The Lost Boys represent youth who want to live forever and never grow up. In a weird way, you can kind of look at the vampires from The Lost Boys as the Lost Boys from Peter Pan if they had gone completely wrong, with the complications of teenagehood and the lust and danger that it brings. But here's the thing. Why call the movie Lost Boys if the boys in it aren't boys but are actually young men? Well, in true David Attenborough style, allow me to explain. Number 7. Originally, The Lost Boys was going to be more like The Goonies. Originally, The Lost Boys was going to be directed by Richard Donner, whom had previously directed the smash hit kiddie adventure movie The Goonies, a movie about a group of children going on a pirate treasure quest. And when Donner got on board, his original vision for it was to be more fun and kid-friendly like The Goonies, with The Lost Boys being about 12 years of age, so The Lost Boys probably would have been to vampires what The Goonies was to pirates, fun and playful with no real danger. But Donner left the project to direct Lethal Weapon instead, but he still acted as executive producer on the movie, and thus Joel Schumacher came on board and it was his idea to make the characters in the movie as young adults rather than children, so that way they could make it more daring. And incidentally, there was a scene in Lethal Weapon where we see The Lost Boys is being shown at a local cinema, which is a nice nod to Donner being connected to the two movies. Number 6. The Lost Boys comics.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly.
In recent years, Vertigo Comics has brought out a line of comic books which acts as a true sequel to the movie, in which our main heroes Michael, Sam and the Frog Brothers are still fighting to take down more vampires who plague the town of Santa Carla. The comics are beautifully illustrated and totally capture the mood and feel and general look of the movie. And given that a huge subplot of The Lost Boys is comic books, and how comic books can somewhat reflect real life, it's actually quite surprising that a comic series didn't come earlier.
I told you, I don't like horror comics.
Think of it more as a survival manual.
I love how this issue revolves around the big oiled up muscle-bound saxophone player, who we briefly see in the movie. In the comics, it is revealed that he is known as the Believer, and actually plays a huge part in the scheme of things in the Lost Boys universe, other than just being a random saxophone player, that is. Oh, thank God, because Lord knows, I always wanted to know what happened to that muscle-bound, oily guy that we saw for 1 minute who looks like He-Man getting it on with a saxophone. Seriously, watch him playing that saxophone. He really does go full Debbie Does Dallas on it. Number 5. The Truth About Santa Carla. The environment in The Lost Boys is meant to be very volatile, what with the frequent murders and missing persons. Basically, this is a town where you could walk around in and easily disappear, and yet become another missing person on a poster. The Lost Boys was filmed at Santa Cruz, on the reputation of it having a high murder rate, along with disappearances and other criminal activity. And in the script, the town where the Emerson family moved to was called Santa Cruz, relying on the town's muddy reputation. However, when the crew were seeking filming permits, they were told they can only film in Santa Cruz if they did not use the name Santa Cruz. So instead, the town was called Santa Carla in the movie, making it a fictional town as opposed to a real-life one. Which is probably just as well, because otherwise the movie is saying to the audience, whom have had loved ones go missing in Santa Cruz, that their family members have been taken over by vampires. Sometimes not vilifying a town and its real-life problems is the best way to go about things. Number 4. Ben Stiller was nearly in the movie. Yeah, that's right. Funny man Ben Stiller himself was nearly in the movie. But the big question is, as who? Stiller said that he went to an audition, and also in the audition waiting room was Kieffer Sutherland and the two Coreys. So this means he may have either been auditioning for the role of main antagonist David, or Sam Emerson, or one of the Frog Brothers. Personally, I like to think he was auditioning for the role of older brother Michael. I mean, after all, Ben Stiller and Jason Patric, who played Michael, do look kinda similar. Yeah? Right? They do a little bit, right? I think it would have been a different film had Ben Stiller starred in it, and I wonder if it would have taken more of a comedic approach due to his awkward comic timing. But if all this wasn't cray-cray enough, Jim Carrey was also considered for the movie, once again supposedly as Michael. Yeah, look, I don't know, maybe in the early days of the script they just envisioned Michael as being a pretty funny guy, I don't know. Number 3, the sequel that never happened. As we all know, the Lost Boys eventually got 2 long-awaited sequels in the form of 2 straight-to-video releases. The Lost Boys: The Tribe, which was released in 2008, and The Lost Boys: The First, which was released in 2010. Both movies would see Corey Feldman reprise his role as Edgar Frog, and I think that most people agree that the 2 sequels are, well, to put it bluntly, crap. I never saw the third one, but I did see the second installment, The Tribe, and felt that it just looked like Twilight. However, for years, the original movie's director, Joel Schumacher, had pitched the idea for a sequel called The Lost Girls, in which the vampire villains were now quote-unquote tough biker vampire chicks, which would have been an interesting take, and the movie was also to feature the return of the David character, played by Kieffer Sutherland. But sadly, the sequel never happened, and what we got was, well, this. Okay, to be fair, I don't think The Tribe was that bad. I mean, it's not like it's taking a shit on the original Lost Boys, but it didn't exactly wow me either, and didn't exactly make me go running to see the third one. Number 2, influence of the Frog Brothers. So in the movie we see teenage vampires, or rather teenage want-to-be vampire hunters, Edgar and Alan Frog. Well, the boys' names, Edgar and Alan, are named after legendary American mystery and horror writer Edgar Allan Poe. And in addition to that, Corey Feldman was told that his character is someone who believes that he is an American movie action hero. So to get in the mindset, Feldman was told to watch a heap of Sylvester Stallone and Chuck Norris movies, specifically Rambo and Missing in Action, hence the character's red headband and tough way he tries to sound when he talks.
We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
To be fair though, Feldman does do tough pretty well. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with him and his red bandana or vampire justice. Number 1, deleted scenes. Ever notice that in the Lost Boys credits, the actress Kelly Jo Minter is listed as being in the movie? For those who don't know who Minter is, she starred in A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 and the movie Mask, which is weird because she actually never appears in the movie. What's even more weird is her IMDb page even lists her as starring in The Lost Boys. What? Well, this is because all the scenes involving Minter were deleted, as Kelly Jo Minter played a character called Maria, who worked in the video store owned by the character Max, where the character Lucy would end up working too. But it seems that she actually had a substantial role in the movie, which for whatever reason was removed. That's right, an entire character was cut out of the movie. In fact, there was actually a lot of scenes cut from The Lost Boys. One that stands out to me is when Lucy gets apprehended by the vampire bikie gang as they start circling her. It's really creepy and makes them more intimidating, in a scene that ends with Lucy being rescued by the character Max, which no doubt would have ensured the audience's trust in the character, and thus adding to the shock of the revelation in the end that he is the head vampire. That was my look into The Lost Boys, a movie that perfectly represents the culture of the late 80s, in that it's got big hair, funky music, dark atmosphere with bright colours, the two Coreys, INXS, and Bill from Bill and Ted. It doesn't get any more 80s than that. The movie that proves that when it comes to vampire movies, the 80s just did it better. Anyway, I'm Minty, and if Kieffer Sutherland ever offers you some takeaway rice, don't eat it. Chances are it's probably maggots. Yeah. Anyway, see ya.